Okay, so you may not be able to fully retire tomorrow, but there is a way to get closer to that dream. And you can do that by realizing that you can retire before fully retiring. And the first step is to quitting the parts of your life that keep you chained to the job. And this is not just about the bridge between semi-retirement and full retirement, which, by the way, I've done a couple of videos on that very topic, and I'll link those at the end of this one. This is about practicing retirement in strategic ways, pulling levers now that move you closer to countdown. That's what this video is about. Okay, my first point is to retire from debt once and for all, because every debt is a claim on income that you haven't even earned yet. Just think about that. Part of next month's paycheck already belongs to somebody else. The credit card company, the car lender, the bank. And every time you eliminate one of those payments, you buy back more of your future. And that matters if you want to retire soon, or if you want to semi-retire, or just stop feeling like your hands are tied because of the debt. Because the lower your monthly obligations are, the less income you require. Just think about it this way. Retirement itself, that signifies freedom. But becoming debt-free, that also signifies freedom. What better step forward to retirement than freeing yourself from the millstone of lingering debt? Pay off the credit cards once and for all. Finish that car loan. Now, is there such a thing as okay debt in your 50s and 60s? Well, if you have a low interest mortgage, adequate savings, and a payment that doesn't threaten your retirement plan, it may not make sense to drain your cash just to pay that off. And sometimes creating debt, it helps prevent a future financial problem, like financing a necessary roof repair or another critical home repair, or replacing a vehicle that you need to have. But that's different than dragging old consumer debt into your retirement like a suitcase full of rocks. So let's set up a debt attack plan. Do it today. Give it an expiration date and start retiring those payments. And start asking yourself, what would my life look like, feel like, if those payments disappeared? And prove to yourself that you're serious about making retirement sooner a reality. Okay, second point is to retire from careless spending. It's easier to spend when we know we have a paycheck coming in every other week. And we can form some pretty relaxed behaviors when it comes to our spending. And I'm not saying to never go out to eat or never buy anything nice. And I'm not saying that life should be one big long punishment until retirement. And that's not the point. The point is the spending that's on autopilot. It's the spending that happens when you're tired or you're bored, in a hurry, stressed. It's the insurance brand that you've been with for years. The cell phone carrier that you've sworn loyalty to. It's the subscription that you forgot about. And the convenience fee that you pay time and time again because you don't have the energy to find another way. It's the Amazon order that you barely remember placing. I mean, do you sometimes get packages at your door and you're thinking, What did I order? This is something I did a while back as well. I went back into my Amazon order history. And I mean, it's all there from the beginning. And in my case, all the way back to 2007. And I just kind of scrolled through some of those older years. It's eye-opening. Just scroll through there and you'll see things that you don't remember buying, things long gone, stuff that you really didn't need. It's like a little museum of money that wandered off and never came back. Careless spending is dangerous, mainly because it doesn't feel like some big financial decision. Therefore, it's rarely addressed. So, practicing retirement means getting more deliberate about what your money is actually buying. Because in retirement, your spending is going to more than likely need to be more intentional. So why not practice now? Practice no spending months, or just designate one day of the week as your spending day. Okay, my third point is to retire from the habits that steal your future. Now, we're talking about making life more free before we actually retire. And not just financially free, but physically free, mentally and emotionally free. Because there are habits that don't just cost us money, they cost us our energy, our health, confidence, even years off of our life. Habits that take much more than they give back in return. Smoking, too much drinking, junk food, sitting all day, doom scrolling, living in a constant loop of negativity. In a younger body, some of that damage, it's easier to ignore, not even see it. But in our 50s and 60s, the bill starts to show up. We lose stamina, we lose resilience, we lose sleep, we lose mobility. Things that are so important at this stage in our lives. And little by little, we can start dragging habits into retirement that makes that retirement much harder to enjoy. And it is never too late to change. It is never too late to reinvent yourself. In fact, I think it's very empowering to reinvent yourself at this age. It gives you such a confidence boost, something that no amount of money can buy. And what is the point of looking forward to retirement if we carry into it the very things that shorten our lives or steal the enjoyment out of it? So maybe the next thing to retire is the habit that keeps borrowing from your future body. Okay, point number 4 is to retire from lifestyle maintenance. And lifestyle maintenance is about the weight of the life that you've built. And maybe it's the house or the yard or all the errands that you have to run, all the accounts, the stuff, the clutter that you have to move from one place to another all the time. Keeping up with all of it feels like a second job. There's the storage unit, the extra vehicle, and the shed that's overflowing with seasonal decorations. Things that technically belong to you, but somehow feel like you belong to them. And this matters because retirement is not always about having enough money. It's also about having enough energy. And if you feel like currently that your life is too exhausting, just keeping up with all the stuff and the maintenance, then do yourself the biggest favor. and declare that now is the time to lighten that load. And a lot of people tell themselves that they'll deal with it after they retire, when they've got the time. That's when they'll clean out the garage. That's when they'll deal with the boat that hasn't been uncovered in 8 years. But is that really how you want to spend your first year of retirement? Chipping away at it now, getting that stuff behind you, and then seeing this wide open vista full of possibilities, seeing that open up with retirement finally being in view. So one way to retire before fully retiring is to resign from maintenance that you no longer want. Clean out the closet, cancel one recurring thing, organize all of your admin, your finances, and stop storing things for an imaginary future. Let go of the supplies from that hobby that you haven't touched since 2011. Make the house easier to live in, and make your life require fewer decisions. And I'm not talking about trying to become a minimalist, unless that's what you want. I'm talking about, we're just trying to build a life that doesn't exhaust us. And this is one way that we can retire before we fully retire. Okay, point 5 is to retire your work identity before you retire from work. And this one can be tricky because Gen X grew up working. We were expected to be responsible, reliable, and do the job without complaining. And after decades of that, work can become more than just income. It becomes structure and purpose, how we socialize, even how we identify. So when some people imagine retirement, they don't just fear losing that paycheck. They fear losing the shape of their life. Because a job can create a box that makes you feel safe. And that is why you can't wait until retirement to start creating the next version of yourself. Because by the time your job is finished with its role in your life, something else needs to be waiting in the wings. And just begin creating parts of your identity that are not connected to your job. And they can be simple things. Maybe you start taking a walk every single morning because you want to. And you want that to be a part of who you are. A person that walks every morning. Maybe it's getting serious about your faith life again, your spirituality. Maybe it's planting a little garden because that's how you want to be seen. You want to be seen as a faithful, spiritual person, a gardener, someone with a green thumb. And maybe it's volunteering somewhere, joining a group, getting stronger, or going back to something that you loved when you were a kid or when you were much younger, before all of the adult responsibilities took over. The point is to start building a reason to get up that doesn't involve a supervisor or a job or a paycheck. This is retirement practice. Because if work is the only thing giving your life structure, retirement can feel like a big black hole. But if you start building non-work structure now, retirement becomes less of a void and more of a transfer. Okay, number 6 is retire from depending on one paycheck. Now, this doesn't mean everyone needs a side hustle. What I mean is that retirement gets less scary when you're not completely dependent on one income source forever. Now, unlike our parents and our grandparents, many of us can't afford to go from, a paycheck on Friday to living entirely on Social Security the following Monday. And maybe you've heard of the old three-legged stool in retirement. And for a lot of Americans, that stool consisted of a pension, Social Security, and then your savings. And if one leg got a little shaky, the other two helped, hold it up. And the problem for many Gen Xers is that pension leg never really showed up. So what does the updated stool look like? Now, we'll assume that Social Security is still going to be one of those legs. And then, of course, you've got your nest egg. Maybe a side income. It could be a pension, even a small one, or a part-time job, dividends, rental income. It can even mean a 62 to 65 cash bridge. And the goal is not to turn your life into a never-ending hustle. The goal is to create options. If all the money comes from one source, and that source owns your time, your energy, and your mood, then freedom feels impossible. But when you lower your expenses and build your savings, knock out that debt, and create even one additional source of income, well, then something really big starts to shift. You've just created yourself some options. And that's how you retire before retiring. You may not be fully retired, but you feel a lot less trapped. Now, the old retirement dream was just one clean exit. But for Gen X, the smarter move is building more options. That way, work loses its grip on you before fully leaving it. So how do you retire before fully retiring? Well, you start by taking pieces of your life back, because retirement is not just a date. It's a process of making your life less dependent on the grind. Maybe that's the part that Gen X needs to hear. You don't have to wait until that final paycheck to start feeling free. You can start right now by just making a few decisions that give you back a little more time, a little more energy, a little more money, and a little more control. That's how you retire before fully retiring. You stop waiting for freedom to just arrive all at once, and you start taking it back, piece by piece. So give me a shout out and a thumbs up if you got something from this video today. And I just want to say that I love the community that we are building here. Stay Gen X strong, stay Gen X cool, and I will see you in the next video.